All right, hello and welcome to episode 63 of the Too Hard to Pass podcast. I'm the co-host Juan Martinez, and to my left or to my right, it's Jacques Slade? Question mark?
Yo, why is there a question mark there? I don't understand the
I
question
don't know. I
mark.
couldn't think of an
I'm
intro right away,
obviously
and I was
here.
like, I couldn't think of an intro really quick, and I was like, I usually have like something quippy or something silly to describe Jacques Slade, and then as soon as I said Jacques Slade, I was like, wait, I have nothing, so I just went question mark.
Yeah, but I'm here. I'm here.
I know.
That is who I am. I'm not sure.
I tried, man. I'm just.
Okay.
Sometimes, you kind of just fumble the ball and you pick it up and, you just kind of keep going with it and you don't acknowledge it. You just keep going with it. Kind of like what we're doing right now.
Acknowledge that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
We just keep the
so
ball
welcome
rolling.
to the So welcome to the show, everyone. Got a good one prepared for you. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the sneaker world since we recorded Hard Pass. So for those that don't know, we record Hard Pass on Thursdays and it goes up on Sunday/Monday, usually on Sundays, sometimes on Monday. Like this week, it went up on Monday. And since that recording happened, there's been a lot of news in that, 72 hours that we didn't get a chance to really cover on Hard Pass. So we're going to talk about that today. We got a lot of good stuff planned for you, and a Mount Rushmore that is definitely going to turn some heads. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you take it away, Juan.
Okay. All right. Yes. So we recorded Hard Pass on Thursday morning, I believe, is when we ended up recording it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Thursday afternoon is when the story of Steph Curry's surprise question mark sneaker free agency kicked off. And yeah, man, that was quite surprising. And it was actually we for the first time ever did a emergency pod. I feel like that was definitely a moment that was worthy of emergency pod status. I mean, there's really not a lot of other news in the sneaker world that would kind of justify something like that. If it's Kanye going off again, it's well, I mean, what is it, Tuesday?
Basically.
Yeah, but if Steph Curry is saying, I'm out of Under Armour, that's definitely something that is worthy of us getting out of our ass and getting here to record and do something about it. But we'll get to that in a little bit later. I did want to kick it off with the other big news that actually just happened, I guess, this morning, is the announcement that Cade Cunningham, guard for the Detroit Pistons, not only re-upped with Nike for a 6-year deal, he will also be getting a signature shoe by spring 2027. That seems like a long time away, but it's also not a long time away at the same time. It's it's next season, technically. It's technically already next season. But yeah, I'm not sure how to process this news in a sense, Jacques, because Cade Cunningham, he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years already. He's kind of established himself as an all-star caliber guard. And he does have player exclusives with Nike. He does have a pretty neat logo. Actually, that may have been the first sign that Cade Cunningham was going to be in line for something big, is that he had a really dope player exclusive logo. Normally, when you see these player exclusive logos, they're it's just some sort of mishmash of initials and letter and jersey number, and then you call it a day. This one felt had a little bit more of effort into it. The stars, the interlocking C's, and maybe that should have been our first sign that something special was on the way. But at the same time, I never really looked at Cunningham as that player who would be worthy. Now, that could be just because we are locked into our Lakers. We don't really pay as much attention to other stuff going on in the league. That could be just our own biases.
Right.
But at the same time, once I started looking more deeper into it and, seeing where Cunningham is ranked among the top players in the league and just watching highlights and everything, I'm like, no, seems like he's probably the right player in terms of Nike's younger batch of athletes to be next up in regards to getting a signature shoe.
Yeah, that's the interesting part about this is they're essentially signing a new generation of players now at Nike. Mm-hmm. LeBron will be gone soon, and we don't know what his line is going to look like after he's gone. KD still playing, but he's in the later years of his career as well. So signing Cade now um makes for like, oh, okay, these are the ballers that they're going for. I think the challenge that a lot of us are having with Cade, and not that Cade isn't a baller, because he's incredible on the court,
Right.
is he doesn't necessarily have that star power that I think we've associated with the people that signed to Nike. LeBron, Kyrie, KD, they all had this
Right.
element of star power to them. And I'm not sure, or I haven't seen that from Cade yet. Maybe that's
Mhm.
something that's to come, but I haven't seen that yet. Like Sabrina Ionescu, like that superstar, Asia, superstar, Caitlin, obviously, superstar. Like these are
Right. Right.
superstar players in the league. And that's not to say that other players aren't good at basketball, but
Right.
there's something different about those people. So I'll be interested in seeing how this all develops. My gripe, if anything, with this is that they announced it now. I don't see a reason for announcing it so early. I feel like this
Sure.
news is going to hit and it's going to disappear. If anything, I would have held off on this until the start of next season. Now we're like basically 2 seasons away, or a season and a half away, and this seems a little premature to make such an announcement.
Right. There's definitely maybe that has something to do with, contract negotiations, whether the timing of like Cunningham's deal was going to be up with Nike, when it was going to expire. And maybe part of the negotiations is we make this big splash. Like we make this big
Mm,
announcement. And it's interesting you mentioned KD. Like part of the announcement was, Cade being on KD's like podcast show on Boardroom, and Katie
yeah,
being the one to basically announce that Cade would be getting a signature shoe. And, you saw the congratulatory, messages and all that stuff, and Katie talking to Cade about what could be in line for him, and, how the process goes in, like, designing a signature shoe, and how KD, when he was younger, was not really into like the design process. He was more just into
yeah,
just the just the novelty of having a signature shoe, and not necessarily thinking about like design and marketing and all that stuff. And he only got into it like, later into his career, which is interesting because when
yeah.
you look at KD, he seems like the most non-plussed about his signature shoe at the moment, in terms of like just how much he truly cares about it. And maybe that's just
Right.
part of the character. At this point, it's part of character now for KD to just not care.
Okay.
But
The KD character. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
funny.
It's almost like a wrestling persona, right? Like kayfabe. Like he's kind of just kayfabing us at this point, but low key, he actually cares about this stuff. He really is like deep down in the weeds, and talking to, Leo Chang and everybody there at Nike about like, how he wants to be marketed. And he's just giving off this like character now where he doesn't care. But then when you see him talk to Cade, you're like, oh, KD's invested. KD's involved. Then you're like, oh, it's like this weird like balance when you saw that real play out in that video. So I thought that was just a little interesting tidbit in terms of like, KD's involvement. But going back to Cade, I think part of it too is that when Cade came into the league, I think he was drafted in, and go back to 2021. He did not have the same hype as other players that, were drafted like, number one or number two, like, over the past couple of
Mhm.
years, because you had Zion, Luca, Wemby, like, in between and after. Seemed like Cade was kind of like that in between, where like, oh, this is kind of like a gap year in terms of like hyped number one overall picks or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So part of that too is like, and I look at it also from like the perspective of like trading cards, because these people who collect these players, they look at it like who's the most hyped from the jump. And, if you're not like a very hyped prospect from the very, very beginning, like when you first step into the league, it actually takes you a while to build it up in terms of like, collectors
Yeah.
jumping on board with you. And maybe that's the same thing with like, in terms of like our attention that we paid to Cade Cunningham. He wasn't blowing our minds in terms of like, how he was like, putting up highlights. And also playing for the Pistons probably didn't help too, because they were pretty bad during those first couple of years. And he was also, I believe, injured for his second or third year for much of the season. So he kind of had a lot of like catching up to do in terms of like,
Yeah.
getting attention and getting recognized at Nike probably. But now that he is an all-star, an all NBA level player, it seems like now is like the time to really jump on board the Cunningham bandwagon. But not, it didn't seem like that might have been the case when he was a rookie. It was like more of like a wait and
Right.
see approach. And now Nike has waited and seen, that this is probably somebody that we want to invest in.
Yeah, it's kind of what happened with Dame. Dame didn't
Mm,
have a signature shoe out of the jump.
yeah,
And I believe it took a year or two before Adidas
I
actually
think so.
signed
Yes.
him and gave him a signature shoe.
Hmm.
So maybe, it's pretty similar here with him. And, maybe Nike's getting in early and Cade is going to be a big player in the future. We just haven't seen that part
Hmm.
of his game yet, or we've seen that star power from him yet. Obviously, playing for Detroit put some limitations on, shouldn't say limitations. They put some buffers on how big of a
Sure.
star he can be.
Sure.
He's going to need to be somewhere that has a little more attention. New York, LA, Miami, even Houston, Chicago.
Hmm.
Detroit just doesn't have that type of buzz. And, with everything going on with Detroit outside of the world of basketball, you have those concerns as well. So I think he's a great player. Again, I don't want to take anything away from what he's done or what he continues to do on the court, but
Yep.
there is going to come an inflection point, I think, where we're going to need more for him. We're going to need something that brings him to a more popular status within sneaker culture outside of basketball culture. Because I
Right.
think basketball people know him,
Hmm.
but sneaker culture people, I don't think really know him. And if sneaker culture people don't know him, then the larger world doesn't know who he is. And I think that is going to be the major challenge that they face. But this is what Nike does. This is these marketing things that they do, the marketing commercials and banners and videos. Like that's all going to hopefully change the narrative around who he is and what he can do on the basketball court.
Right. In terms of like, playing in Detroit, that's, definitely like a concern in terms of like, how much word can get out. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit less of a concern now than it was maybe like 20 years ago, where it's like, oh, you're playing in like a small market. It doesn't, you might not be as big of a deal as, maybe a brand might want you. Like when you take a look at Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he's in OKC, but it took years. It really took a lot of years for people to know who SGA was. And,
Yep.
part of it was, the tunnel fits. Part of it was, I think he drops like bars every week or something like that, kind of like in the Dame ways, kind of like back in the days, or was it tweets? But, it was those little things that got us to know who SGA was, those little bits of personality. And now that Cade is in line for a signature sneaker, that's probably like the next step, talking to
Yeah.
whoever people that Cade has to talk to in order to get more of that personality out, get to know who he is beyond the basketball court, will definitely be critical in getting people interested
Yes.
in Cade Cunningham, not just the basketball player, but also like the person, because that plays such a huge role nowadays. Like if SGA was just a great hooper, like Converse probably would not have just invested like, all of this money and resources into, the signature shoe. But because he has presented himself to be such a personality, like, someone
Yep.
who has like these fits and, definitely like gets involved in there. So yeah, like that's going to be the challenge for Nike and Cade in terms of like how they're going to present him in the future in terms of like signature shoes and everything. And at the same time, I think the Pistons, just looked up their record. They're 11 and 12. So that helps too. Winning is also a huge deal. And
Winning helps.
winning helps. So if, say, the Pistons go far in this year's, Eastern Conference, I mean, it is pretty wide open this season, with the Pacers out, with, players on the Knicks being, there's just so many possibilities for the Pistons to break through this year. And that's going to be huge for Cade, not just in terms of like his individual success on the court, but also in terms of like Nike doing what probably seems like a long rollout for the signature shoe, because
Yeah.
he's probably gonna be rocking like all sorts of PEs now, like, maybe a little bit crazier than usual. And you're gonna be seeing the logo more prominently featured now. I bet you wouldn't be surprised if you start to see like merchandise, like, apparel with the logo and all that stuff prior to the launch of the signature shoe. Like it wouldn't shock me if that started to happen. But yeah, seems like we are gonna be into they said spring 2027. So that's what, 18 months? A
Yeah.
prolonged, I mean, this seems like even longer than the Caitlin Clark, signature, but the alleged, we still don't know what's happening with that signature
Alleged. The
shoe. I was
saga.
like, how are we still not here? But yeah, Yeah, so I'm going to be interested to see how Nike keeps the momentum going for the next, 18 months or so to get people invested in Cade in the meantime.
It's going to be a lot of work, but if anybody can do it, it's Nike. I'm
Hmm.
thinking about their roster. They have LeBron, they have Ja, they have KD, they have Giannis, and they have Devin Booker.
Yep.
Right? That's the 5
On the men's side.
guys they have on the men's side. Yeah, that's the 5
Hmm.
they have on the men's side. Yeah. With LeBron kind of teetering towards the end of his playing career,
Yeah,
it makes sense to bring in somebody new. I just want Cade to show what he can do outside of the course because we already know he can ball, but we've got to
exactly.
find something about him to bring him outside of that in order for, I think, for this to really work. Otherwise, I don't see this bearing the fruit that we think it should.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot to talk about over the next 18 months. I mean, you look at it too, feels like we're really like in that we really like see like the really split of the generations now because you've got LeBron and Katie on this side. Giannis is kind of like that in between, like the tweener of the bunch.
Yes.
And then you've got Ja, Booker, Cade, and then you've got the women's side with Sabrina, Caitlin eventually, and Asia. And if you look at it from this perspective, I feel like Nike's they actually might actually be better off suited on the women's side because you've got Asia, you've got Caitlin, you've got Sabrina, and you compare that to Ja, Booker, and Cade. I feel like I'm more confident about like the women's side at the moment compared to like the men's
Yeah.
side.
At
Yeah.
the moment, for sure. At the moment, for sure. Like they have more star power on the women's
Hmm.
side, I would say.
Yeah. So, and this kind of leads me to my other question that is interesting too. Is like for all this talk about Cade Cunningham getting a signature shoe, how is how is Wemby not in this discussion? Like, you feel like I get it. The whole big man doesn't sell signature shoes and all that stuff. I get it. But at the same time, I feel like Wemby is just this transcendent talent. Like when you see him put up the numbers that he's putting up, you see the highlights that he's, posting on a daily basis. It still boggles my mind that we can't get over us, just in general, just the general we
The
cannot
general
get
public,
over
yeah.
this long held perception that big men cannot sell sneakers. Like, how is he not at least like a Shaq kind of outlier? Because Shaq was the outlier in terms of like being able to sell signature shoes. How come we cannot look at, and I get it, like Wemby's not the same kind of personality as Shaq was,
And
but I feel like,
I think that makes all the difference. I
sure,
think that makes
sure,
all the difference in the world. Wemby would need to
but
be
he's
a little
trying.
more quirky, Shaq quirky, like Shaq
Mm-hmm.
willing to try anything, not afraid. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing about Shaq that I think we all loved, even though he was a big man and we obviously can't see ourselves as 7 foot tall big men in the NBA. He was fun and quirky and was like breakdancing and rapping and doing all of these other things that you even to today, you really don't see anybody doing the kind of stuff that Shaq was doing. I can't think of a
Mm-hmm.
player that has engaged with the public in the same way that Shaq did.
Mm-hmm.
He was all over the place, movies, music, at the All-Star game, breakdancing. Like you don't have anyone today that would do that. The kids would call that cringe today. And I think that the social norms for someone that's that outgoing would limit someone from doing that because they're so worried about what people are going to say. I think Shaq did it the right way and just had fun and enjoyed himself. And we don't see that with any of the big men. That's why I think Wemby he has to turn on some sort of personality again out off the course or even on the course, like in those small moments that humanizes him in a way. That's what Shaq was really good at, being able to humanize himself. And I don't think anybody people miss. I think when people try to give big men shoes, they don't see that part of the equation, and that part of the equation is arguably the most important part, especially with guys like that.
Yeah. I get it. But at the same time, like when we look at Wemby, it's just the talent is there. And then he did try this
Uh-huh.
over the summer. He did the whole thing, doing the monk stuff, hanging out with Akeem Olajuwon, just doing all of these things that, getting yelled at by Kevin Garnett. Like you see him doing all of these like, weird and quirky things. And maybe I feel like that weird and quirky things is like a lot different than like what Shaq's weird and quirky things were. I feel like weird and quirky in the 90s is different from weird and quirky in 2025, you know? So that's why when I look at Wemby, I'm just looking at him like, how are we not giving him a shot? Like, I'm not saying to
Yeah,
like give him
he's
like a signature. Yeah, yeah. I just it
no, no.
shouldn't be a
See,
Joel Embiid.
that
It shouldn't be a Joel Embiid situation where it's like he gets one signature shoe and then he has it for 5 years. Like that shouldn't be the case. But
yeah.
yeah, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say Wimby is a transcendent player. If he develops his game the way everybody kind of can see him developing his game, he is going to be a monster. He's going to be almost unstoppable. But that
Yeah,
again, that's just on the court though. We need him
yeah,
to develop to be able to laugh at himself. That's the
sure,
thing with Shaq. Shaq was able to laugh at himself. And
sure.
I don't see that with any other player. All the other players are too serious or too buddy or too worried about what people are going to think. The closest
Hmm.
thing we have is Jimmy Butler. He has fun,
Yeah.
but
Uh,
outside of him, there's not much.
right, right. Okay. Yeah, no, totally. So yeah, Cade Cunningham getting a signature shoe seems like the right move. See, like kind of caught us off guard a little bit, but that's why Nike's Nike. They kind of know these things more than we do. And yeah,
Yep.
moving on to more Steph Curry news besides the sneaker free agency stuff. Was it that same night or was it the night after he wore the Nike Kobe 6 Mambasita for warm-ups?
Yeah, it
And
was the
that
same night. The same
Oh,
night.
it was the same night, okay. And that got people buzzing. Like, I'm pretty sure Steph knew that people would get buzzing. It was
Yeah.
just in terms of like cold, calculated moves. That's about as good of a one that you could probably do if you're Steph, right? In terms of
Yeah.
like calling back to Kobe's own sneaker free agency and also just paying homage to Kobe and all that stuff. Just great move on his part. And he still just wore it during warmups. Like that, I thought that was like an interesting play is that he still just wore them, to get ready for the game and swapped out into his, I believe it was like the Series 7, the Curry Series 7 for the actual game itself. So yeah, it's still like wild to process in terms of like, just a couple days later, this whole, free agency thing. Cause you really had this idea of like, oh, Curry brand. It's just going to be this forever thing now. It's going to be like Jordan brand on like a different level because it's with Under Armour,
Yeah.
right? But now that, it's still just wild to think about that we are in this like current present where Steph Curry is wearing Kobe's.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to Anthony Katz. He's the founder of Hyperice, and we were
Okay.
talking about this, and his idea was that Under Armour isn't ever really going to make it in the shoe space, and that's because his theory is that you can start as a shoe brand and get into apparel, but you can't start as an apparel brand and get into sneakers
Mm-hmm.
because typically that doesn't work. He's like, look what Lululemon's doing. They have great apparel. They actually have shoes and they're comfortable, but no one thinks about them in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that's what happened with Under Armour. Everybody thought of them as an apparel brand and the sneaker stuff. And they had some great designers and all, great teams there, but it just didn't translate to the public. And I think that is why Steph ultimately didn't work out with that, with Under Armour.
Mm-hmm.
But he represented for them for a long time, which I think was really cool. And it really put Under Armour in the conversation. But as things dwindled down, it set things up for this. And now Steph literally, after that post went up, or after the news started coming out that he was wearing Kobe's, everyone obviously got super excited. I did a video about it. We talked about it on the pod. Again, check us out. Too Hard to Pass podcast, which you're actually listening to right now. So I'm telling you to check out the
The
podcast,
emergency pod, just
it
to say
within the
the
podcast.
emergency.
Maybe
Yeah.
this is just for the emergency pod,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you guys get what I'm trying to say. Either way,
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah.
he wore the Kobe's for warm-ups, but then went back to his shoes. Now, Steph has like custom orthotics and custom things inside of his shoes. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him wearing other brands within the game, at least
Mm-hmm.
not right away. not until some brand who ever wants to support Steph in his free agency, they get him like a properly fitted orthotics, because that's just the level of detail that Steph needs in his shoes. So he can have fun in the Kobe's during the warm-ups, but he definitely needs something a little bit more suited for him exactly for the game.
Now, while we were all excited to see Steph wear Kobe's, I did see one dissenting opinion, and that is from our good friend Nick Engvall. He posted on his Substack, and now I'm not going to spoil everything that Nick wrote on the Substack. I think everybody should go check out his piece. It was really very well written, as Nick is wont to do. Like, basically he just drops bangers on there all the time, just drops knowledge and everything. But he had a differing opinion in regards to Steph wearing Nikes specifically, not necessarily Kobe's, but Nikes. Now, again,
I didn't see this.
Yeah. So I'm not going to spoil basically the idea of the premise of the article, but it's like wide, in terms of like idea and everything. Him wearing Nike might be just it could be viewed as him kind of acknowledging that he made a mistake in terms of like leaving Nike for Under Armour. So again, that's not the whole gist of the article. Like I said, go check out Nick's Substack. He definitely goes more in depth in like the reasonings why and why like other players probably wouldn't do something like that. But yeah, so that's basically like what Nick said was like, yeah, this could be a mistake long term in terms of like, the perception of Steph wearing Nikes in terms of like, because he wore Nikes, people might get excited for him to wear Nikes to come back to Nike. And then if that's not the case, then, whole level of disappointment to Steph or something like that. But yeah, I mean, what do you think in regards to that? Because I think for a lot of people, I would say most people, seeing him wear the Nikes, like for me personally, when I saw it, I wasn't thinking like him crawling back to Nike. I think it was more about him like signaling that this is a new phase. And the fact that it was a Kobe for me, because people, at least people in the sneaker world know that when that Kobe, it's more of like a sign of like, hey, remember when Kobe was a sneaker free agent? I'm about to do the same thing. I think that's how I perceive it. But again, I'm not looking at it from the perception of like a casual fan who just sees Steph Curry wearing Nikes and then automatically like, in their brains they're firing off like, oh my God, Steph Curry's going to Nike.
Yeah.
Like that could be the take.
Yeah, the reason he wore those Nikes, quote unquote, was because of Kobe. So really, he wore a Kobe shoe. I tweeted about this, and I think he wore a Kobe shoe more than he wore a Nike shoe. Yes, it was a Nike shoe. Yes, Kobe's are Nikes, but I think the intent behind that shoe was more of a dedication to Kobe and a dedication to what those shoes represent. So I'm not sure it's going to be a Nike thing. I think Steph is going to be a little more intentional with what he wears, and we'll start to see that as the weeks go on. I also found out that he is free, for those that are wondering about it. He is free to wear whatever he wants whenever he wants. So it's literally his choice what goes on his feet at this point. Even though the Curry 13 still hasn't dropped, and it's going to drop in February, and then things are still going to kind of go on through October, Steph does have the ability to wear whatever he wants. I think personally it would be in his best interest to continue to wear his Under Armour shoes until the time is up, until maybe this time next year when, he's got when the situation with Under Armour is kind of wrapping up. I would then, wear some different stuff, but I'm not sure, like, if I was him, I'd just continue wearing the Under Armour stuff, mix in some stuff every once in a while, but really the main focus is going to be wearing the Under Armour stuff. But then when we get to, again, this time of year, he can show what he really liked, what he didn't like, and then start rocking those.
Right. I think, going back to that whole point of him wearing Nikes, I think if he continues to wear Nikes, then maybe that's when like Nick's point becomes even more into focus. Like if he continues to wear if you wear like a LeBron or like a KD or even like a GT cut or something, like that's when you're like, the alarm bells start ringing off about like, oh my gosh, what is going on here, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
Steph going to Nike would also just be maybe like a backwards move in regards to him because Nike's not going to bring in Curry Brand. They're just going to sign Steph. Like
Yeah.
he might just get like one signature shoe or two on the way out, like, to end his career. They're not just gonna, they're not gonna Jordan Brand, Curry Brand. They're not
Yeah.
gonna like take that on. So I feel like him wearing Nikes is more of a him wearing Kobe's is more of an acknowledgement of Kobe more than it is Nike. I feel like as the season goes on, I think we're gonna see him in Adidas shoes. We're gonna see him in maybe even New Balances, Leanings, Antes, and all that stuff all throughout the season. And I wonder though if he's gonna wear like, could we see him wearing like an AE1 or an AE2? Do we feel like I wonder what's the potential there? Like, could we see him wearing Kyrie's? Like a contemporary, right? Like, I wonder though. I
Yeah. I
wonder, like,
don't.
could we see
I
him
could.
wear LeBrons? That'd be weird though, right? I think it'd be weird for him to wear LeBrons, but I don't think it'd be weird for him to wear AEs because there's such a gap in between of like Steph and Anthony Edwards in terms of like, age, stature, whatever you want to call it. Like, if Steph were to wear LeBrons, it's more like I'm wearing like my rival. Like, I don't look at like if I'm Steph, like I'm not looking as Anthony Edwards as a rival. Like, but I am kind of looking at LeBron or Kevin Durant as a rival, Like I can't see him wearing KDs. I can't see him wearing, although KDs would be interesting because they were teammates. So maybe that's more of like an acknowledgement
Yeah.
of like, hey, buddy. But LeBron's though would be kind of odd, I think. I can see him wearing Jordans, like retro Jordans for warm-ups. I think everybody
Oh
would like lose
yeah. I can see.
I think
I
everybody
can
would
see
lose
that.
their minds if like if Steph, for all of his noted issues with his ankles and everything, wore Jordans actually in the game. I think everybody would just be like, "What are you doing? Why are you wearing those
Yeah.
old 90s shoes when everybody knows you've got so many issues with your feet and your ankles? What are you doing?" Well, everybody's going to be like so concerned, I think if you ever dared to do something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Seeing him in Nikes is weird. Seeing him as Jordan, I think would be okay. I don't. I'm on the fence about LeBron's.
Hmm.
KD's, yes, because of the team relationship. Jaws, I don't see Ja 3. I don't see him wearing the Ja 3.
Mm-hmm. Sabrina's
I
though.
could
I think
see him.
Sabrina's would be actually
I could
yeah.
see
I
him
mean,
wearing
just because.
Sabrina's. I could see him wearing Asia's. I could see him
Mm-hmm.
wearing uh Giannis's shoe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm interested to see what he does. I almost kind of want him to go at it alone, but that's a lot. That's a big expense. I
Yeah.
was talking to some folks from Nike about that, and like it's a big expense to do it on your own. They'll have to partner with someone to do like basically like a distribution deal back in the day where
Yeah.
you paid for your records and got everything created and mastered, and then you just
Mm,
handed it off, and they printed them up and made them
right.
ready. So I think in this situation, yeah, this situation, I just think he goes independent. I don't want to see. I don't think he needs to sign with another brand. He has enough money, so it's not like a money play.
Yeah.
I think if
It's
he
kind of like
believes in the brand, then do it.
yeah. It's no different like you said with music. It's no different when like a video game. Like, you've got like all of these indie developers and then they sign up
Mm-hmm.
with, the bigger
Mm-hmm.
publishers in order to like, do the distribution, actually printing the discs and all that stuff to, hand off and all that. So
Yeah.
I can see that, definitely being the play, but we're actually teasing out our Rushmore when we talk about this. So we'll hold that for a little bit.
Yep.
Moving on, though, we'll talk more about Steph because I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to talk about as the weeks go on in terms of like what Steph does next. Because I'm going to put it out right now. Every time he wears a different brand, everybody's going to lose their minds about like, oh my God, this is going to happen. Steph Curry with
Yep.
Puma.
Yep. Yep. Them Pumas look
Steph,
good on. I mean, because what he could wear Anthony Edwards shoe, he could wear Harden shoe, he
yeah.
could wear Tyrese Halliburton shoe,
Mm-hmm.
he could wear Melo's shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Who else am I missing? He
Brianna
could wear the
Stewart on
bigger
Puma
roar.
too. Yeah.
Who'd you say?
Oh, Brianna Stewart on Puma. Like we
Breanna
could
Stewart,
see,
you can wear
yeah,
hers.
yeah, yeah,
Angel Reese's shoe.
yeah.
Who else am I missing?
For some reason, like we really all wanted Reebok for some reason for this to happen, because so the Angel Reese thing would be super interesting if
Yeah.
Steph were to ever do that, because I feel like part of it is like us kind of fantasy hoping that Reebok comes back in a big way, and
In a
then
big way, yeah. Yeah.
if they were to get Steph, I feel like there's a lot of like things in play there. Like I feel like Reebok would take on Curry Brand. They would like go forward with like a partnership with terms like Curry Brand. They wouldn't just take Steph and then just make Reebok Curry shoes. They would make Curry Brand shoes with assistance from Reebok. Like I don't see that being. Yeah, I feel like wherever Steph goes, he's gonna want Curry Brand to go with him. Like I just don't see him giving up everything that he's built, for the past
Yeah.
decade or so. Like I just don't see him giving that up regardless. So that's
Yeah.
why
I
like
mean,
Nike
they released Curry Brand to him, so he owns Curry Brand.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's not gonna give that up. Like I just don't see
Yeah.
him like I don't see him like let's say, for example, signing with Nike for however long his career lasts, and then he does Curry Brand afterwards. I don't see
Yeah.
him putting Curry Brand on hold while he's still playing, and then he gets to work on the brand after he's finished. Like he's gonna want to keep that thing going while he's still playing, because that's when he's gonna get the most attention. Because once he's retired, there's only so much he can do to stay in the news. Like we look at D Wade with Li Ning. I mean, he's on TV. He's an announcer.
He's on
But
TV.
yeah, but you get what I'm saying. He's not playing anymore. Like it's different when
Right.
you're on the court
Yeah.
itself. It's different when you're calling the games than when you're on the court. So yeah, just there's a lot of moving parts at the moment, and we're not going to get honestly, we're not going to get a resolution until next year. It's kind of like the long
Yeah.
play with Cade Cunningham, right? It's like we won't know what Cade's shoe is going to look like till 2027. We're not going to know what Steph is going to be up to until after the Under Armour deal is done, like done.
Yep.
Like in October 2026.
Done.
But I think we're going to have fun though. I think it's going to be fun for these next couple of months in terms of like us all speculating about what's next for Steph, which kind of plays into like his star power. Like it kind of just plays into like how important he is in the culture. Like people kind of look at Steph as like, oh, he's just like the sneaker dad, or like the guy, like the little bit cheesy, corny guy. But then when this happened, like as soon as he wore Kobe's, everybody lost their minds, and it turns out, oh, Steph is relevant and he is cool.
Yep.
So yeah, I think this was just the sign that we do care about like what Steph does, and it's not just like jokes,
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely care about Steph, and he has that star power. His game has brought him up to that star power, so we're going to pay attention. And the broader world knows about him, from kids to soccer moms to granddads. Everybody knows who Steph is, so that's going to help him with his brand, I think, initially. However, I mean, if he does the brand, because I was thinking about it, like, will we have like the Nike Curry brand one or the Nike Curry one? Yeah, that just doesn't sound right. Or the Reebok Curry brand one? Adidas Curry brand one? New Balance Curry? No.
More likely.
Yeah.
But also still weird. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I want any of that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Sure. Okay. All right. So moving on to other shocking news, I guess. Like on the scale of like Cade Cunningham. Okay, so on the scale of Steph Curry sneaker free agent, then we've got Cade Cunningham, signature athlete. And then we've got Nike retroing the PG ones into what? How dare? If you are not watching the video version of this podcast, Jacques basically slapped the ceiling when I said that Nike was bringing back the PG ones. According to our good friends at Soul Retriever, Nike is planning to bring back the PG. I guess there's already like, pictures of like, whatever sample pairs already out there, but the PG ones are returning in 2026. Now, famously on Hard Pass, we kind of give a bit of a hard time to Paul George and his signature shoe line.
Yes.
It's jokes. We kind of got jokes for it. It's just
we are not ashamed.
We're not ashamed.
We are not ashamed.
No. We just poke fun at the signature shoe line
Yes.
of Paul George because if you look at it in comparison to basically everything else in the Nike oeuvre, kind of doesn't get
Oofra.
a lot of
Oh.
attention. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
It
No,
just
it's true. No, you're
it
not.
doesn't get the same love and attention. And Nike seemed to have cut bait with Paul George because it discontinued the line like a couple years ago. But now they're bringing back the PG1. Okay, is this a big deal? Is this somewhat of a deal, or is this Nike just had to like put something out kind of deal? Like where do we put this in terms of, like, obviously it's not as big as news as Cade Cunningham getting his signature new. It's not
Right.
as big as news as like Steph Curry getting doing his free agency thing. But what does this actually mean though? In your opinion, what do you think this actually means? Like Nike bringing back the PG1 so soon, I guess. Like I could have seen myself seeing like Nike bringing back the PG1 when Paul George was retired, kind of like as an homage, like, hey man, thanks for the memories and all that stuff. But he's still playing, kinda, sorta.
I
I don't know. Is he playing?
I think he's getting traded. I feel like I saw something about him being traded. So the way I would think about this is, one, people love Paul George. I think people really,
Question
really
mark? No, I was kidding.
embraced
No, I'm
him.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Um, his sneaker it popped off originally. I think that's something that we missed. Like initially, it was hot. It was super hot in the streets.
Yes.
And that flame just kind of fizzled out over time, which is why I think they stopped doing his shoes this year, or maybe it was last year where they stopped doing his shoes.
It may have been 23, I think. Like a PG6 was
it 23?
23.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to lean into the nostalgia of it all and try to get people excited about it. Whether or not that works is a different question. I'm not sure that that's going to move the needle at all, really. But it will be exciting to see how the community responds to that. And I'm thinking about this through the lens of KD. Like the KD retros, like I think 1 or 2 did well, but the rest of them just kind of sat on shelves. And I'm wondering, is it too early to retro the shoe? Is it still too top of mind? What if they waited 20 years, 30 years, 40 years?
Yeah.
How does that change the dynamic? I mean, the 10-year mark worked for Jordan, from 85 to 94, essentially. But I don't see. But and even in 94, now that I think about it, 94 wasn't like the most poppinest return. Like it wasn't crazy. Like,
it took until
like
the
it would
2000s,
be.
really. Yeah.
Yeah, like it would today. So the brand's rushing everything back after 10 years to try to do a retro. I think that's too early. I think you got to wait 15, 20 years to really get something going. Maybe release a couple of quick strikes in those first couple of years, like random quick strikes kind of thing. But then let them sit until they're about 15 years old when the nostalgia really kicks in, because all those kids that wanted the PGs are going to be like legit adults now, and they'll be able to buy them just because they wanted them so much.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, definitely. Because I think the PG ones came out, it was 2016, 2017. That's not even a decade. Like, I feel like they are getting a little bit
That's
ahead of
crazy.
themselves. I know it is.
Yeah.
I remember having talks with Ronnie 2K in regards to like, revealing the PG1, like the 2K collab, like the one that had like the fish, the bobble thing or whatever. But I remember having talks with him about that. And yeah, and I was like, wait, that was 2017 or 16? Oh my God. Anyways, I feel like it is too soon. Yeah, and you're right. Like Paul George has a segment of like especially with hoopers, like there's really like a strong concentration of like young basketball players who love Paul George and probably love his signature shoes. But it's still too early, man. Like I feel if we had waited, was it okay? If it was 2016, if it was in 2031 or whatever, yeah, I feel like that would be a better play. But right now, I feel like you might get buried a little bit, and then we're gonna have the jokes. Like,
we will definitely have jokes. But I agree with you that I think Nike needs to wait. I think they need to hold off on this retro because what is it 2026, right? It's 2026, right? That's when it's supposed to return, 2026. Yeah, I would feel better about this coming back out in 2027 or 2028 or something like that. Now feels, I guess like you said, it feels early.
And also, if Podcast P had like revealed it on his podcast, I feel like this would have been a better, if he had gotten ahead of this ahead of everybody else and teased it out or, said something about it, like it dropping via a leak by our Soul Retriever buddies is kind of just like, what? Oh, okay. I guess that's happening. Like if Paul George had managed to get ahead of this and talked about it himself and revealed it himself, I feel like maybe the reception for it would be, I think we'd be a little bit more excited for it. But again, they should have been done later on, like at least 5 more years from now, at the minimum 5 years from now. I think would have been better received if that were the case. But yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, man. Good luck with that, Paul. Good luck with that. I know we have
the one final parting shot. Good luck with that, Paul. Parting shot before.
I try not to be that guy, but I always end up sounding like that guy, just the hater. But I guess I have to accept it. I guess I have to accept that that is who I am now. That is the image that is the brand that I've built up through the years from like Kicks on Fire on through. It's like, yeah, Juan's the hater over there. And once Juan hates something, he doesn't stop. He just keeps going with it.
He don't stop.
He can't let it go. He doesn't let it go. He doesn't let it go. And here I am just talking to myself in the third person, which is just weird. Anyways, let's just move on. Let's just move on today, Jacques. This is not therapy. This is not therapy session. This is the Too Hard to Pass podcast. And now it is time for everybody's favorite segment of the show. It's Sneaker Mount Rushmore Plus time.
Thought that was going to make a better noise.
Yeah. We need to come up with like,
I don't know. We'll go with that.
If we had a soundboard, this would be great. If we had like the Funk Flex like boom or something like that, I would definitely love that. Or those sounds.
There we go.
By the way, do you remember when
that I would call them evil spirits?
Oh, do you remember when Funk Flex debuted the Kanye Jay-Z song Otis? He did like a whole 20-minute bit where he kept like rewinding his songs back. Yeah. Where like he would like, it would get to like Jay's verse and then like he would just rewind it back to like the beginning of the song. Yeah. And somebody got that, that 20-minute whole thing and like edited it so that, you would be seeing the music video and then it would rewind back to the beginning. And then you would see like intercuts of like, Funk Flex doing his thing. And it's just an amazing 20 minutes of like, man, we really had it good in 2010, didn't we? Like just the excitement of that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just the good times, just when everything was so much more simpler back then. It was just like a nostalgia hit for me. It was like, when everything was.
I kind of want to see that. I want to see that.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. But yeah, it was like,
send it to me after this. I remember the regular thing, but I haven't seen the new version.
Yeah. But like, everything was just so not so complicated as it is now. But anyways, today we are doing the Steph Curry Sneaker Mount Rushmore Plus. And I'm going to say now, this is probably like one of our wilder categories in terms of like how we're doing this.
Yeah.
So today the categories are going to be best Under Armour shoe, the most dad Under Armour shoe in Steph Curry's Under Armour run, a Nike shoe because he was with Nike at the time, like, before he was at Under Armour, he was at Nike. So we're going to go through like, what was the best shoe that he wore as a Nike guy, a wild card, and then finally just our prediction for what's next. So where do we see Steph going by October 2026? So I forget who went first last week. Was it you or me?
I know we always forget.
we always forget.
I think it was
it you or was it me? I don't even remember. Gosh. Well, anyways.
I think it was me.
Okay, so I'll go first.
So I think it was me. Yeah, so you go first. Yeah.
Okay. So for my pick for my personal pick for the best Under Armour Curry shoe, I'm gonna go with the Under Armour Curry 4. I've always loved the design of
Curry
that. It was kind of
4.
a bit of a,
Okay.
yeah, bit of a high cut look, but I just love the sleek, smooth design of it. I remember getting like was it like the black, white, and gold pair? It had a lot of like, I hate it when I
Uh-huh.
say this, but people get nuts when I say it, but like it kind of reminds me of like the Air Jordan 12 playoffs, just because I love the color blocking. I love
Mhm.
the split of like the black and the white, and that little hit of gold is always just like
Yeah.
great to me. And of course, it was also the pair that he wore like when they won in 2022, like when they did their version of like the Pro Tros, they call it Flotros. There was like that lilac purple
Mhm.
pair that he wore when he went off against the Celtics. So that was pretty memorable to me. But yeah, in terms of like overall design, in terms of like the entire run of Curry shoes, I always loved the design of the 4 out of everything. Like it really stood out to me in comparison to literally everything else in the Curry line. So yeah,
Okay.
that's my pick, the Curry 4.
I respect that. I respect that. For me, it's the Curry one.
Mm,
And specifically I think it's the home colorway, or maybe they call it the Golden State colorway, the home colorway that was blue and yellow.
uh-huh.
When I think of his line, that is still the image that pops into my head when I think of the Curry
Mm,
line. It's the first
mhm.
one, and to me, that was the most, I guess, the most relevant, especially at the time. I felt like it really blew up, really helped establish the brand, the
Mhm.
Curry brand, or the, I guess, him as a signature athlete, not really the Curry brand yet, but it really helped
Yeah.
establish him as a signature athlete. And that model, like, always sticks in my brain. It sticks out when I think about Curry and what Curry shoes look like. Um, Moving on to the next category, dad shoe is the Curry Too Low. I think the Curry Too Low was
Yeah.
the start of like the dad shoe movement for him, and it always kind of remained that way in my brain. It
Yeah.
even before I think the white pair came along, the Curry Two was just like, I don't know if this is gonna work. I don't know if this is
Mm.
the shoe that we want to see from Curry. I don't know if this is the one that we're looking for. And I think it really helps set the tone for the rest of the
Yeah.
brand and mess things up for the brand in general.
Yeah. And the thing is that when we say dad shoe, like originally when we were coming up with the categories, like we were gonna say like worst UA shoe, and I feel like that's very well, we didn't want to go that route. Like I feel like going down that route
Right.
would kind of create like, we don't want to be like negative in regards. So just that when we went with dad shoe, it's more of like
Yeah.
we knew that there was a switch. We knew that there was like basically like a changing of like the vibe in
A
UA and
change of
Curry.
yes.
Yeah, it's just
Yes.
things happened. Things happened along the way, and you can call it mistakes. Let's say, like, let's be quite honest. Like, it was a bit of a fumble, in terms of that, because once the Curry two lows came out, there was definitely like a oh gosh, like there's that perception, right? Like,
Mhm.
people started looking at Steph like differently. Yeah, unlike when the Curry one, it was like cool. It was very much like he was on top of things, and and it sold very well. People love the Curry ones. Like I remember those like
Yeah.
selling pretty briskly. Like I wouldn't say everything sold out, but at the jump, they were doing pretty well. And then the Curry 2, and then once the lows came
There
out,
was still
kind of
some
really,
energy. Yeah.
yeah. There was still some
Once
energy
the
with the
lows
twos a
came
little
out,
bit,
the
but
energy
once the lows came
just
out, it just, yeah, you're right, you're right. Um,
yeah, it
feel like
just
that was a
lost
slam dunk.
all
Yeah.
fire.
Feeling like, the Curry 2 was
Yeah.
definitely like the slam dunk pink for like, dad shoe. So
Yes,
I'm
for
gonna go with,
sure.
I feel like is the second, is the most sure thing, right? But I gotta go with the second one is the Curry one low golf. Like, I feel like, once we went with,
Oh, okay.
Curry 2 lows, I feel
Yeah.
like the next step is like
Yeah.
golf shoes. And here's the
I didn't
thing,
even think
right? Like
about
the
that,
Curry
but
one
that's a good
lows, I
pick.
don't not
That's a good
necessarily
pick.
mad at the design, but the fact that we went with golf, but the fact that it became a golf shoe kind of gives it that dad energy, regardless of however you want to think about it. Golf
Yeah,
definitely gives off the dad energy. So, the weekend warrior
for sure.
hops energy, once you get off work, go to the driving range kind of energy. Um, And what better exemplifies that other than like, the Curry ones becoming a golf shoe. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that. So for my Nike
Okay.
pick,
I respect that.
I feel like again, it's going with the Mambacitas might be like the easy pick because of like the moment. But I think I'm gonna go back though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to basically the moment when Steph Curry became like a household name. Was when it was like when he scored, what was it, like 50 something points against the Knicks in a pair of like hyperfuses. So it was like
Oh,
what year was that? Like
dang,
the
that's so
Nike
good.
Hyperfuse, whatever year that was. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
Steph Curry and like some hyperfuses going for like 50 something points in the Garden was like his like, arrival moment. And yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of have to go with that in terms of like, I think
That's
I'm
a
gonna
good
go with that for
choice.
my
That's a
pick.
good
Yeah.
choice. That's actually what I was gonna go with, the hyperfuse.
Ah,
So that's a good one there. But that leaves me with very few options. So I'm gonna have to go with Steph in the hyper dunks, which he
oh,
didn't wear very much, but he wore them early on. So you got to go with the hyper dunks. I think he wore I've seen he had a bunch of different colors, but
yeah,
the hyper dunk is the one that kind of sticks out in my mind. Outside of the hyperfuse, like those are the only two things that I remember.
yeah,
I really remember seeing him in back then. It's like hyperfuse or a hyper dunk. So I don't really have much more in my brain, at least stored in my brain outside of that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like,
For
oh,
the
yeah. Go ahead. You're next.
Go ahead.
Oh no, no, no. You're right.
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah. No, I was about to say like you're right. Like he didn't really wear a lot of like he didn't wear like PEs of like signature athletes or anything like that. He definitely was like you felt like he could have been next, but also like with Steph, it was like during that time with Nike, it was like you feel like he could have been next, but also you could have seen him just being like that guy who wore the hyper dunks, the hyper fuses, or like the equivalent
Hmm.
of the GT cuts today. Basically just keep
Yeah.
going
Yes.
that
Yes.
lane. So and that basically played a role in him bouncing.
And him making the move.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then for the wild card, so I know people aren't gonna like this one, but I'm gonna go with the Curry 4 because it
It's good.
felt so it to me, it looked like such a modern basketball shoe. Even
Hmm.
today, if you release the Curry 4 today, it still feels like it's like from the future in a sense, from the
Yeah.
way that it's
Mm-hmm.
designed and the materials that they use. It feels very modern and forward thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it didn't really pop off the way a modern shoe does. Like if Nike made this and called it like a GT something, I think it would fit into that like flight posit sort of category of
Sure.
shoes that look like they're from the future kind of thing. And the
Hmm.
Curry 4 fit that future forward sort of thing for me when I
Yeah.
see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for my wild card, God, there's really God, when it comes to like picking a wild card for Steph, there's not a lot that I could really think of like, what would really stand out, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess I'm going to be gonna be cheap in a little bit and go with the Mamacitas, basically because you just wore it this past weekend. Like I feel
All right.
like
Mm-hmm.
might as well because I honestly like I really was thinking about going with the Mamacitas initially, but then I was like, no, we got to go back. We got to
Yeah.
like acknowledge that Steph did have history with Nike prior. Um,
Yes.
so now with the
Yes.
wild card, and I guess that kind of leads into my pick, my feeling about what's next for Steph. And I think, for my pick for like what I think Steph is going to go with, I think he's going to go independent, but well, independent in a sense. Curry brand is going to sign with a Chinese brand like an Anta or Li Ning and basically just do co-branded
Mm.
stuff. Like you're not gonna see whether he signs with like a Li Ning or an Anta or a 361 or Riggerer. You're gonna see Curry brand at the forefront. And maybe like kind of like with the UA stuff, right? Towards the end, when you saw like the Curry shoe, the Curry Series 7 or whatever, you saw mostly Curry branding.
Mhm.
But then like, on the outsole, there's just a little bit of that Under Armour logo on there just to like remind folks like, hey, don't forget who makes these. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like with Steph, I think he wants Curry brand to be as big as it possibly can be. Like, I don't foresee him just like, riding off into the sunset and just doing like, I I don't want to be a jerk, but say like Sunday Red. Like, with Sunday Red, like,
Yeah.
that kind of deal. Like, I feel like he wants Curry brand to be a Jordan brand where like it lives on way past and he's still relevant, that kind of thing. And I feel like the way he's going to be able to do that is to sign with a Chinese brand that has the resources, the infrastructure, the design team,
Mm-hmm.
the marketing and all that stuff. But obviously there's going to have to be like a more US centric focus, unlike with like, the way of Wade's. Like, with the
Yes.
Wade stuff, they
Yes.
tried a little bit here and there here in the States, but it never really popped off. I feel like if Curry were to sign with those brands, he would have to demand that we really, really push for something here stateside. So that's what I think Steph is going to do next year is go indie, but with the help of a Chinese brand.
Oh, so I'm going to approach this as Curry was dropping clues for us. And I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to say he is going to get out of the shoe business
Mm.
because selling sneakers are hard, as he said. And
Yep.
Curry brand is only going to exist as like an apparel brand. I
Mm.
think that is the angle. And I'm not sure at this late stage of his career if he wants to deal with all the headaches that are associated with creating shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is total speculation here, but I
Oh
think
yeah,
he'll
yeah.
get out of the
Everything
sneaker
is.
game and just focus on Curry brand as an apparel brand and as a like community organization as opposed to like a basketball footwear brand.
Right.
That's what makes most sense to me. That way he doesn't have to deal with that headache, but he can still represent and wear whatever shoes he wants, but have Curry brand still show up in all of the places that it needs to show up and show up on the basketball court, show up off the court, show up everywhere he goes, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be directly related to his footwear. That's my assumption.
Oh no, hey, that's a pretty interesting guess. Like I never would have figured getting out of the game would be Steph's move, but yeah, no, that's interesting. This is not my pick. Like I already made my pick, but like I also had an interesting thought. Like it would be wild if Steph were to find his version of like what Roger Federer found with On. He found
Mm-hmm.
like a different brand, something that was up and coming, and he invests so much money into it that basically he's like the
Mm-hmm.
face of the brand as well. Like if Steph between now and then were to find his version of like On, like that would be
Yeah.
wild. Like, and that's just a once in a lifetime thing. I think like Federer really lucked into that, like On was like,
Yeah. He
on the
walked
like
right place,
you
right
heard about it.
time.
Right place, right time. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like a
Exactly.
Jordan thing. It's like
Yeah.
Jordan, like just once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah. And, if Federer had just gone off on his own, then, we'd hear about him every once in a while. Like, he had the partnership with Uniqlo and,
Mhm.
you see like, Federer branded Uniqlo stuff, right? And that's the thing. But with On, it just catapulted him to like a different stratosphere in terms of like, geez, like, you see him like in the advertisements and you see how On is like a huge thing nowadays. And, beyond like sneaker world, like it's just everybody wears it. Like it's just such the casual
Yeah.
running, walking shoe of choice besides like Hoka's. So
Yep.
this is like that's the once in a lifetime kind of shot. Like if Steph were to find his version of On, that would be crazy. And he'd
Mhm.
be the perfect guy for something like that. That he'd be perfect for
Yeah.
something like that. But again, that doesn't come around that doesn't come around every day. So that's just like a shot in the dark kind of thing. So I think that's why
Definitely a shot
I'm
in the
gonna stick
dark.
with my prediction. And your prediction is pretty good too. Like I never thought of it that way, where he's like that selling shoes is hard. I thought that was just more of him like in the moment kind of thing. But if you're like saying like he
Mhm.
really means that and he's kind of just tired of this stuff, wouldn't be mad at it either. Wouldn't be mad if Steph just said, "Hey man, like,
Yeah.
once I'm retired, I'm kind of done. I'm just riding off to the sunset." And Curry brand t-shirts, apparel, hats, they're all available on the website, link in the bio and whatnot.
Yeah, let that stuff exist in a different place. I
In
don't
a
know. I don't
different
know. We'll
place.
see. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
We'll find out what I imagine we won't find out about this.
It'll be a while.
Because, I mean, the 13 is going to be launched in February, so I don't think it wouldn't be before then. Mm-hmm. And they're going to selling stuff up through October. So maybe this time next year, maybe a little earlier, is when we start to find out stuff like that. Maybe through what we see, him during the summer, or what we see at the beginning of the NBA season next year will give us a better idea of what's going to happen.
Could we see him, though? I think this would be interesting. Could we see him tease something during All-Star, though? Like, I know Curry 13 is coming out around that time.
No,
but do we think?
I don't think
so. You don't think he's not going to undermine what's going on at the moment, just to like tease?
I think he doesn't. I don't think he wants to mess up his royalties that are coming from Under Armour.
That's true.
By jeopardizing the 13. Yeah, that's my opinion. I don't think he wants to jeopardize that.
Okay. Yeah. No. Definitely. Yeah. All right. With that in mind, that was episode 63 of the Too Hard to Pass podcast. Thank you again for watching and listening and all that good stuff. Again, it's time for church. I am your co-host, Juan Martinez, and it's time for Jacques with the shameless plugs and the sermon.
Thank you guys for watching. As always, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you leave reviews. Make sure you comment all of the good things. Make sure you share it. All the things that you do with the podcast to make sure you spread the word so other people get excited about it. I am Jacques Slade. That's Juan. If you want to shoot us an email, it's the toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. Again, the toohardtopasspodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see or hear from you next week.